Hello everyone, the title of today's episode is 8 billion great possibilities within one impossibility. And the title of today's episode is about the infinity sign, to some degree, the infinite. You see, I am just a person. And when you look at what a person is in this world, you see that it is a certain evolved intelligence. Now, that's how we have been taught it, okay? Now, right now, everybody who's hearing my voice in 2016, every day you wake up, you can experience and explore your own intelligence for yourself and just see how fantastic it is, how it is nameless to others' vocabulary, to other people's vocabulary. And so it's very profound because uh, you see, just like how in holy books it is said that there are 7 heavens, I find the reason there is no 8th heaven because, of course, I'm being very playful here. There is no eighth heaven is because when you take the number 8 and spin it a bit, you see that it's the infinite. So you see that the 8th heaven is just an infinite being, and of course I'm saying this very playfully. There's such mystical awe and just so much that beauty in these ancient holy texts that how would I say it? The art speaks for itself. Now to continue, you see, to dive deeper into this, I want you to see that a person can be seen through 3 different lenses, or let us say playfully dimensions. These dimensions are, let us say, these lenses is first the lens of the body, then the lens of the mind, then the lens of the soul. The reason I use this, like 3 kind of like categorization system trio I have here, is because I find body, mind, and soul. Everybody can, to some degree, acknowledge that. Every human being, even if you're educated or not, just these 3 words you learn, you can get a sense of what life is to some degree. Now, let's go look at these 3 lenses. You see, the lens of your body is how there's a suggestion that your body has created your mind. Let's not talk about the soul yet. Let's look at the mind and body. So you see, we are a body. We conclude many like our modern society are modern, but I feel it's step behind what it was. Back in the day, like thousands of years ago. But the body is first considered to be projecting a mind. But there are certain states of experience, conscious experience, where you see the mind is projecting a body. An example of this is when you dream. You can, like, I don't know about others, but I'm sure there are many out there who have this experience. Sometimes in your dreams you can move. I don't know if people have had this experience, but I've had. And so in the dream there is like a body. So when I see that I exist in the dream state as a mind with a subjective body, but when I am in the waking state, I exist with a mind as an objective with an objective body, there's something very profound. It seems that the mind is multidimensional, the body is objectively considered to be in one dimension, but then if we were to wonder about the soul, what is beyond multidimensionality? It is the emptiness within each multidimensionality that is unified, which suddenly leads to the whole intelligence of a separate world being like one moment that is happening at once, So the body and the mind is a very important area of your life to pay attention, because if if your body is producing the mind, it's a very hard life. If your mind is projecting your body, why is it a hard life? Why can't it be easy? In an instant. So you see that you're not just bones and blood. You are You are you are an awareness that is utilizing this phenomena. And so, how we know this is that in any self awareness, there is an awareness, and then there's this awareness, like there's a self, there's this awareness to a self. So, what that means is right now you're hearing my talk, you're a listener, I'm speaking. So, for example, sometimes you recognize that in certain moments you are observing something, but there's the observed, and then there's the observer. So, what this implies is that when we look at the human beings on this planet, we see 8 billion, let's say bodies. But then we see if these beings who've been going on just like many of their ancestors, just going body that is a mind, and they suddenly realize they're a mind that is projecting a body, it's as if for the first time, the observer of the moment is not just only acknowledged, but is the one making the conclusion. What that means is, like when you see a tree, you know you're not that tree. So similarly, when you observe certain qualities and aspects of yourself, and you, in a sense, in quotations, go with it, you suddenly see that, how would I say it? It's like it's a soul that is through a mind projecting itself as a body, which is wondering if it's a mind that is has a soul. Do you see what I mean? So what that means is that if we saw the body, mind, soul in concentric circles, we'll see the first circle will be body, the second circle will be mind, and the third circle will be consciousness, soul. So you see what I'm saying? Like what I'm saying, what I'm saying is that they're all in the circle of consciousness. So what that means is, I was talking to a very wise friend of mine, and she very playfully said, life's, the meaning of life is not, is nowhere. It's like is to get to nowhere. Like that's how she said it. And I was like, yeah. And so, in a sense, really, the purpose of man might be some story, but the purpose of how the whole cosmos is being a purpose right now is just momentary awareness. And this is why I say, anybody who's listening to these Mr. Within talks, if you're coming towards these talks, you're an advanced communicator. And what that means is an advanced communicator is as advanced as the communication that it sees it is. So the most advanced communicator suddenly realizes that it's the most advanced communication of the cosmos. And then it leads on to a state of awareness, let us say, and of course Mr. Within is just saying this playfully, because we don't want ideas to be too firm that we cannot see other ideas, But I'm just saying, after the advanced communicator gains a certain realization, either some advanced communicators become pilots, or, they become like, how would I say it? The pilots of consciousness, or in a sense, the advanced communicator becomes, how would I say it? Like if the pilot is the sun, the rays are the advanced communicator, and the rays are not separate from the sun. They're the greatest expression of the sun. So we want to develop a global society that acknowledges not just an individual consciousness, not just a collective consciousness, not just a planetary, galactic, but just an inspiration of how the moment is happening on its own, and we're up for the ride. And that's the ability to see the humility that is, to some degree, pointed out in ancient books, that you need sincerity and humility. And even though there's a talk of fear of God in certain holy books, it's not that you should be so afraid you're paralyzed into doing nothing. You fear, so in a sense you recognize that, gosh, we are such a small being, and any second, any moment, it could be our last breath. So what that means is a person who has found the divine grace within, and let's say many people who pray or many people who meditate, they're going to go into states where they're going to see their faith and trust in their greatest vision of their clarity will at some point dissolve them into that clarity, because their mind has originated the possibility. So if right now you can envision yourself to be any great whatever, that possibility exists now. So the only thing is that the objectivity takes a while. But in your cellular planes, you exist in perfection the moment you conceive it. So to some degree, that means we suddenly realize what is meant by the statement 8 billion possibilities in one impossibility. That means just think about how rare it is for a planet to not be so close to the sun to burn, and not to be too far to some degree, be too cold. And it has the perfect atmosphere, and it's just this sphere hovering in space, and so we're to some degree acknowledging gravity. But if there's a gravity, that means there's a dynamism of just pull, let us say, for example. And this pull can never be defined because it's always happening. So we are always creating our own limited templates of reality when we are only caught in the you think you're a person who's only a body that has a mind. When you see you're a mind that is projecting a body rather than a body projecting a mind, you begin to wonder what the mind is. And when you really deeply wonder what the mind is, that's to some degree the humility I was talking about in prayer and meditation, where you renounce. And what renunciation means is, let's say your whole attention in your whole life has been on muffins. Let's say, for example, you were someone who, from the day one, you saw a muffin, you were like, muffin, 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 muffin. And let's say, so many years went by, and so one day you suddenly realize, why am I looking at muffins so much, man? And this is by far the most ridiculous, spontaneous, story I've made out of nowhere. But that's the point, nowhere. Because even in the words nowhere, you see the words now, and even in the word nowhere, you see the words now here, with a bit of space in between. So let's say it like this. In regards to meditation, the aim is to quieten the mind, and then divine grace will happen like a butterfly that you've stopped chasing, and when you're still, it just comes to you when it's your time. You know, when it's your time to realize yourself beyond time. It will happen. It's natural. It's like a sequoia tree growing a little bit, and then looking at all the other, what do you call it, other trees in the forest, and being intimidated because it hasn't grown to its full capacity. But why is it intimidated when it's going to grow to its full capacity? So what that means is most people are afraid of their conditions in their life and what's going to happen. But why are you, when you're a natural growing process in this universal sector? That means, there was a very profound mystic poet named Rumi. He said, in one of his quotes, this was the idea where he says, I did not come here on my own accord, and I will not leave here on my own accord. So what he was saying is that there is this underlying, of course I'm saying Mr.Within is saying this playfully, there is this underlying intelligence that is doing its thing, and we are just part of this conscious stream. It's like we've just opened our eyes in our day, and we have no idea how everything in existence is existing at once, but we continue on our day, and we play the part that we're made for. And what that means is that when you look at the concept of an actor, believe it or not, an animal can be an actor, and to some degree a soul can be an actor, and a god can be an actor, because they're all still meaningful in the realm of language, because we are still entertaining the personality, and rather than realizing our true nature. And of course there will be some people who will listen to my talk where they have realized this state. This state is nothing profound. I'm not telling people, yo, man, there's this unknown dimension, it's all cool, What I'm telling you guys is that, I hope, and with the help of Google, what's outside your eyes to some degree, But when you wonder what is inside your eyes, and when I say inside, that means what is the origin of the mind, you suddenly realize when the question, who am I, comes, or who is the seer of this moment, it's like literally there's no teaching, there's no practice, there's no guru. You just realize in the wonder for you to really know who you are, you will in an instant give it, Like how would I say, the cosmos will be that moment for you. So we don't want to make mysticism something where everybody's like, oh my God, we should go sit under a tree. Even though that's a great thing to do, I think most people should do that, because if you sit under trees, then they might cut them down thus. But the whole idea here is that it is all the activity of the soul, which the mind is a tool that is to some degree creating the fixture of a reality. The impossibility comes down to how when you wonder about the unknown, for it to make sense as being the unknown, it will forever be unknown. So for the mind, it creates mirrors for it to realize that it is beyond itself. For the body, when it stops moving and it's still in silence, and you just for a moment you can observe who you are, you suddenly see the body becomes the mirror. Like how would I say it? The body's stillness and silence suddenly becomes the mirror for the mind to realize that it never was a body, and then for the mind to instantaneously also realize that it was never just a mind. And so what that means is, guys, do you believe there's a state of our being that can't be worded? Like, I can't talk about it. I could just poetically be like, but it's still not gonna get the juice of what the direct experience is. So even when you look at an orange, it like you can't judge an orange by the surface. It will hurt the orange's feelings. But like when the orange, like you actually like open up the orange, you suddenly see, wow, there's greater dimension of something that you had no idea about. So imagine being the first human being that cut up an orange and he was like, whoa, look at what I found. Like his mind was blown probably. And then he tasted it and his mind was even more blown. And there was an evolution of human being who like ate oranges for the first time and it evolved their consciousness. I don't know. you know Existential sensitivity is very important because, as the greatest wisdom goes, pretty much in this life, all you got to do is abide by the self, and the self is a self-realization of your true nature that is never a story, but the moment you acknowledge the story, you realize beyond it. So, Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj has this quote where he says, the absolute is without quality and beyond consciousness. So that means everything externally can just be a mirror of your mind, is a reflection of the mirror to your mind, and your mind, once it realizes in a mind, it doesn't need the mirror, so it will wonder how it's here, and then that state of consciousness is the activity of the soul. Like to be pure soul on this plane is doesn't make sense as a body, because the body needs movement, and movement is an individual activity. Time is a stargate. Time and space both are a stargate to how the present moment is the ultimate reality. When those who are in the finite realize they are infinite, we are 8 billion great visions in empty space. So it can never make sense. We can never say beyond our clouds there isn't an intelligence greater than us, because we know under the clouds there is a greater intelligence. Do you know? So we are living actually in like, I think to some degree all the bad people on this planet have given people a gift. They have given them a gift of limitation, and in that limitation, when their weak egos break, they suddenly realize the vastness, and it's like, forget the word magic. It's an infinite world with such design and intelligence that how your eyes are open is as fascinating how you can visualize all that you can see. We are more multidimensional than we think, and they have not told this to us. And at first it feels like a big deal, but then you see it's actually not a big deal. To live simply in a complex world is wise, Mr.Within finds. And when the world is super simple, you live in a complex way. So a person on an island, life is simple, he wants complexity. He thrives complexity. A person who's in a complex world, thrives simplicity. So how hilarious is it? The person who alone is on the island, is trying to get out of the island. The person who is with so many people wants to take a vacation to go by the beach of some island. So it's all showing how the psychology works, and of course, if we are talking about it, we are creating the language that is defining it. And so I find every self-aware being and realized being is a great poet. We all are to some degree, it's not like, so guys, I'm like, some people have said, you speak in verse, something like that. And I said, guys, it's not me. It's like the whole civilization used to do it. Everybody can do it. It's just playfulness. In playfulness, you get a simultaneous allowance. And so, it's like, they say for men, of course, for women, it's much easier to multitask. For men, it's harder. And I agree. But I think for consciousness, it's not hard to multitask. It is simultaneously being all that. So sometimes you live in this life as a body that goes never thinking about its mind. You're just doing stuff that's similar to what animals do, and and of course there's nothing wrong with it. We all came from it. So uh, animals do, and then you go see that there's stuff that you can do for the mind, which is when the animal wonders what happens after death. That is the greater consciousness of man that most animals don't have. And of course, this is a theory that most animals don't have, but I find consciousness exists in so many inconceivable ways that I think it was Albert Einstein who said whoever seeks I don't know, truth or knowledge or something like that. He said it is met with the laughter of the gods or something. It's shipwrecked with the laughter of the gods. And that's an interesting quote he said, because that means you can envision, you can wonder about something in this life, and in looking at it, suddenly realize the limitlessness of the universe and all the possibilities. That I find most of our great thinkers are so ahead of their time, and they want to contribute to the time that they feel they're in, but they have to some degree, build and reverse engineer to where they are now a path. So it is all part of a grand play of cosmic intelligence. So my friends, I've spoken about body, mind, and soul. So I'm going to give you this in, of course, colored by my personal experience, but I'm just going to say it. Those Himalayan yogis that go into caves and retreat and go into very blissful samadhi states? So, why should a human being in a world so vast, and it's like a wonderland here, why should someone in a wonderland go sit on the bench? And so, this is the interesting thing, because if someone has been going on the rides of Wonderland for eons, cyclically for eons, that being is going to after some time wonder, okay, enough of these rides that I feel I've been going deja vu moments all over again, so what is actually happening here? And so you see that Himalayan yogi that goes in the cave, in that silence and stillness, he suddenly realizes that just like how the body is kept by the mind is all kept by a greater intelligence, where we can call it soul, consciousness, whatever you like. Mr. Within finds that language is just a platform into greater states. So when a human being speaks, it can reduce their intelligence, and when a human being speaks, it can increase their intelligence, and this is irrelevant to how others hear what that human being says. It's based on the nature of the content and the imagery spoken about. So what that means is, I could see a rose and I could talk to you about the thorns or the petals. And so every person has a choice in how they communicate. But the thing is, the more you talk about thorns, the next time let's say you're walking and you see a Christmas light or something, like it's like, I don't know, something like what I'm saying is like. So many people are going to wonder what I meant by that. But what I'm saying here is that whatever you put your attention on, it's probably going to influence your next moment. So pay attention to truth, pay attention to love, to beauty, to the simple, clear, and intuitive and innocent states of reality. Listen to purity, listen to not comparison. Like don't go out in this life searching for truth with a judge's hammer. You're never going to find Thor's hammer like that. Actually, Thor's hammer might fall on you. You must abide by who you really are. And forget the word confidence. Gosh, the word confidence is a con. I'm telling you, it's a con. the word confidence is an illusion because it's suggesting there's a power you can get. No, you just become self-aware. Just attain the clarity of your moment and the experience of it. That means you can walk in this life experientially, or you can walk with it with an unconscious experiential like reflection, and to some degree you're just like standing on mountaintops without realizing you could be moving mountain. All thought and phenomena resides in one moment. We could also say it resides in one moment too. And that a being who truly comprehends their realized nature will realize it beyond words. And when they are wise, they will suddenly understand why in so many ancient books and even in the Tao Te Ching, there was, they said the Tao that could be talked about is not the real Tao. And they also had the quote Lao Tzu put in this quote. He said, those who speak do not know, and those who do not know get Facebook calls.